Time now for our rants and raves of the week, starting with you, Dan.
Well, I have a rave for the Washington Post. A few weeks ago, we were all kind of aghast at the New York Times having an off-the-record editorial board meeting with Donald Trump, and then some of it leaking out into a Gail Collins column. I mean, it was just a mess all the way around. So last week, the Washington Post had an editorial board with Donald Trump. They put it on the record. They posted the audio. They posted the transcript.
Really?
They got some stories out of it.
How was it?
It was terrific. I mean, this was where, it was reported that Donald Trump turned to one of the young digital editors on the way out and said, "Does that answer your question, beautiful?" Good for them. Now, I had an exchange with Fred Hyatt, the editorial page editor, to ask him how this came about. He said they're still going to do some off-the-record editorial boards at more the local and state level, but they've decided that they're going to do all of their presidential editorial boards on the record this year. And Trump was the first, but he said they'll all be on the record. So good for them.
Yeah, that is good. All right, Roy.
So I can rant about the Washington Post then, can't I?
Yes.
Not exactly, but I'm going to rant about the Washington Post owner, Jeff Bezos, who was quoted in a recent issue of Fortune as throwing out some ideas about what things might be done at the Washington Post. And one of the ideas he came up with is to create a game so that readers, if they don't like a story, they can disembowel it. And of course, we all know what disemboweling is, right? It's taking the vowels out of the stories that you read that you don't like. And then you could create another game where people would pay money to restore the vowels and make the stories right again.
That may be
Is
the
this for real?
stupidest thing I've ever heard
Are
in my
you sure
life.
it's for real?
Really?
Sure it's not one of those internet things?
Well,
I thought it was just in the comments.
no, I think it's the whole article. And
We're skeptical.
What Fortune, you should be. What Fortune said was that when they asked, first of all, that Marty Barron, who's of course now the executive editor there, was not keen on the idea.
Well, what a surprise.
But they asked Bezos about it, and he said, working together with other smart people in front of a whiteboard, we can come up with a lot of very bad ideas. So I guess he made his own point here.
All right, Callie.
Well, this is a rave and a rant. Michaela Pereira, who is 1/3 of the anchor team on New Day on CNN, who is great, is leaving, and she's going to go to HLN for her own show that they have not announced what it is, and she's moving back to Los Angeles, where she came from. She has just been solid, solid, solid. And they finally got their chemistry. This is so sad to me, going right there with the three of them. That the Kate that you referred to earlier in the earlier story used to be there, and I kind of felt bad when they moved her out of there. But Allison Cameretta with Chris Cuomo and Michaela Pereira have been just a really good, solid team. She's a very solid.
Why is she leaving?
I think she missed Los Angeles, and she has an opportunity to do her own show. I mean, she originally was just the third, the news anchor, and then they made her a full third anchor there, which she should have been from the beginning. But she's been great, and she would have asked that question.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, she would have, yeah. So,
all right,
yeah.
I want to rave about the genre of the posthumous takedown. After Rob Ford, the former Toronto mayor, passed away recently, I read a couple really, really excellent, thoughtful, well-argued, and intensely negative pieces, sizing up his life and what his legacy was in the city that he used to run. There is this school of thought that when someone passes away, that we shouldn't say anything negative about them. We should sanitize the nastier parts of their past and just accentuate the positive. I happen to think, and it was driven home again in these Rob Ford retrospectives I read, that there is no better time to size up what an individual meant for the world around them than after they've passed away. Now, you have to do it thoughtfully. You have to acknowledge the positive. If there is positive there, it has to be measured. But I think you can come down and be negative and do a really good piece. And one of my all-time faves, by the way, remember the piece that Eileen McNamara, the former Globe columnist, wrote when Jimmy Kelly, the Boston City Councilor, passed away. Very controversial because she said something like, Boston will probably never see the likes of him again, and that is probably a good thing.
Didn't this just happen also with Justice Antonin Scalia?
That's right.
That there was a lot of positive, and then somebody, I should remember who, somebody did the definitive, not takedown, but certainly included.
Like, let's do a warts and all look at what this person
Well, you just wait a few days, that's all. I'm for waiting a few days.
What is it? But if it's one day later, what does it mean?
The classic Hunter Thompson's obit of Richard Nixon.
yeah.
The lead was, he was a crook.
Yeah.
But that was controversial when he died, because there was a lot of fawning and all the falderall with and everything, and it took Hunter Thompson to be the first one to say
And he
anything.
waited a few days.
That's why I admire great obituary writers, though. The best of them can really capture it all.
That's right.
You
in
write
one
it while they're
story.
alive. That's the trick.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right, I have a rave tonight that's really kind of a dual thing. Actually, a rave and a rant. A rave for my friend and colleague John Carroll, who nailed something that I've been focusing on for years about doing searches on newspaper websites. It's like it's impossible. You know what you want, you know what you're looking for, even if it happened that day, and it doesn't necessarily come up as the first item or the most important item, even though it's the most recent item. These search engines, and I understand, I mean, these search engines are so massive on these websites, it's often easier, as John pointed out, just to Google the story.
Yes.
Just go, and I did that today a couple times about Ted Cruz. I just, National Enquirer, Google the story, that comes up the first thing, rather than trying to find it on the website.
This is why God gave us Google, Emily. Embrace it.
But I mean, we have the same
that's-
problem even on
that's
our
sad.
website.
Yes.
It's impossible to
Yes,
find something.
absolutely.
I went to find an old thing I had written. I just Googled it
Yep.
rather than try to maneuver a website.
Newspapers have to do a better job with that, though, because it's one of the
It keeps you on the
functionalities
page.
of
about
reading
branding.
online
Yeah.
is that you
Keeps
can
you on
jump
the
from story
page.
to story.
Yeah. And it's about branding too.
Yeah, it is. All right, that's it for our show. Tell us what you think. Email us, tweet us, or leave a comment. We're always on at beatthepress.org.